In any conflict, there is a certain tier of adversary that becomes so entrenched, a direct assault is practically a suicide mission. Think of the British Empire at the peak of its occupation over India, holding a subcontinent with overwhelming military force. Or consider the heavily armed, ruthless crime lords who held the Mumbai underworld hostage throughout the 1980s. Then you have an international fugitive like Dawood Ibrahim, shielded by state intelligence deep within the sprawling urban maze of Karachi. These targets share a specific kind of invulnerability. A military strike risks starting a war, playing by the rules gets you killed, and physical protests can be crushed. When a front door is indestructible, the target's safety is no longer a matter of locks and bolts. It becomes a question of who they allow inside. During World War II, the British military secured Singapore with a garrison of 85,000 troops. Walking up to those defenses and trying to shoot your way in was a mathematical impossibility, but this chart reveals a fatal structural flaw in that defense. Out of 85,000 total soldiers, 45,000 of those men were actually captive Indians, forced to fight on behalf of the empire occupying their homeland. Indian nationalist leader Subhash Chandra Bose recognized this vulnerability. Instead of throwing bodies at physical British borders, he left the country entirely to forge strategic alliances abroad. Backed by the Japanese, Bose launched a psychological infiltration. Japanese planes dropped thousands of leaflets over Singapore, written in Hindi, Tamil, and English. The message asked the Indian soldiers why they were dying for their own oppressors. The message landed. A massive mutiny erupted from within the ranks. Indian soldiers turned their weapons on their British commanders, collapsing the defense of Singapore from the inside. Bose proved that you don't need a larger army to dismantle a global empire. You simply have to convince the empire's own instruments of violence to stop complying. Decades later, the Mumbai police faced a similar problem on a micro scale with Manya Survey. Survey was an underworld don with a chemistry degree, but he was also fiercely paranoid and notoriously violent. Standard police raids were useless. Survey never stayed in one place, trusted almost no one, and walked around carrying acid, knives, and firearms. He was highly lethal and entirely unpredictable. As we can see in this network diagram, Survey isolated himself, except for a single connection. He trusted his girlfriend, Vidya. Realizing this, police spent 5 months running a honey trap, maneuvering an undercover informant into Vidya's inner circle until she finally leaked his location. That betrayal provided the exact time and place, January 11th, 1982, outside Ambedkar College. Undercover officers moved in, resulting in a fierce shootout and India's first official police encounter. Survey was armed to the teeth, but superior firepower didn't defeat him. The fortress of his paranoia collapsed the moment his human trust was exploited. By the 2020s, India's intelligence agency, RAW, was hunting Dawood Ibrahim. He lived in a guarded White House compound in Karachi, protected by Pakistan's ISI. A military extraction was impossible. But RAW found a crack in his armor. Dawood frequently ate home-cooked meals brought by his relative, former cricketer Jazid Miandad. RAW had already planted an operative, codenamed Agent Wolf, in Karachi. Wolf blackmailed a businessman named Firoz, who was a trusted friend of the Miandad family, forcing him to act as a delivery vector. RAW acquired a highly specialized Israeli poison designed to evade medical tests. It remained inert in a healthy body, but the moment it contacted a high concentration of steroids, which Dawood used daily, it ignited into a lethal weapon. The execution was mundane. Firoz casually walked into Miandad's kitchen, chatted with his wife, and slipped a few drops of the poison into the green chutney meant for Dawood's favorite kebabs. By using a relative's kitchen, RAW neutralized India's most wanted man without ever engaging the military forces guarding his perimeter. While peaceful movements increased the cost of occupation, the British exit from India was accelerated when the military itself began to mutiny. Manya Survey's death ended his reign and set a precedent for Mumbai's aggressive encounter-based policing. And Dawood Ibrahim was left in a Karachi hospital bed, paralyzed by an intelligence agency that didn't have to fire a single bullet. We tend to measure power by the thickness of a wall, the size of an army or the scale of a bank account. But the structural integrity of any fortress is only as strong as its weakest human link. To topple an untouchable giant, you never attack their armor. You find the one thread they trust, pull it, and watch the system unravel from within.